The Spear of Keltar by W. M. Hennessy. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part I. The following nearly literal version from the ancient tale of the Bruadin da Derga gives an idea of the fabled weapons of the Irish heroes. The famous sword of Finn was the child of this terrible spear. What further sawest thou? By the royal chair a couch I saw, 3 heroes sat thereon. In their first greyness, they grey dark their robes, grey dark their swords, enormous of an edge, to slice the hair on water. He who sits midmost of the 3 grasps with both hands the spear of 50 rivets, and so sways and swings the weapon, which would else give forth its shout of conflict, but he keeps it in, thrice essaying to escape his hands. It doubles, darting on him, heel to point, a cauldron at his feet, big as the vat of a king's guest-house. In that vat a pool, hideous to look upon, of liquor black. Therein he dips and cools the blade by times, else all its shaft would blaze, as though a fire had wrapped the king-post of the house in flame. Resolve me now, and say what 'twas I saw. Not hard to say, these champion warriors 3 are Senka, beauteous son of Illio, Dubthach, the fierce Ulidian Adcock, and Goibnen, son of Eognech, and the spear in hands of Dubthach is the famous Lon of Keltar, son of Oedgar, which erst some wizard of the Tuath de Danann brought to battle at Moytura, and there lost. Found after, and these motions of the spear, and sudden sallies, hard to be restrained, affect it oft as blood of enemies is ripe for spilling. At a cauldron then, full of which brewage needs must be at hand, to quench it when the homicidal act is by its blade expected. Quench it not, it blazes up, even in the holder's hand, and through the holder, and the door planks through, flies forth to sate itself in massacre. End of the Spear of Keltar. The Legend of Fergus Leideson by Sir Samuel Ferguson. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part I. From an unknown bard of the 10th century. One day King Fergus, Lead Luthmar's son, drove by Loch Ruaidhrí, and his journey done, slept in his chariot, wearied. While he slept, a troop of fairies o'er his cushion crept, and first his sharp dread sword they filched away, then bore himself feet forward to the bay. He with a chill touch woke, and at a snatch it fortuned him in either hand to catch a full-grown sprite, while 'twixt his breast and arm he pinned a youngling. They, in dire alarm, writhed hard and squealed. He held tighter. Then, "Quarter and ransom!" cried the little men. "No quarter he, nor go ye hence alive, unless ye gift me wit, the art to dive, long as I will, to walk at large and breathe the seas, the lochs, the river floods beneath." "We will." He loosed them. Herbs of virtue they placed in his ear holes, or, as others say, a hood of fairy texture o'er his head, much like a cleric's cochail, drew, and said, "Wear this, and walk the deeps, but well beware thou enter nowise in Loch Ruaidhrí there." Clad in his cowl, through many deeps he went, and saw their wonders, but was not content, unless Loch Ruaidhrí also to his eyes revealed its inner under mysteries. Thither he came, and plunged therein, and there the murderess met him. Have you seen a pair of blacksmith's bellows open out and close, alternate 'neath the hand of him that blows? so swelled it, and so shrunk, the hideous sight Hung all his visage sideways with affright. He fled, he gained the bank. "How seems my cheer, O Mowena?" "Ill," replied the charioteer, "but rest thee, sleep thy wildness will compose." He slept. Swift Mowena to Emania goes. Whom now for king, since Fergus's face awry, But law demeans him of the sovereignty? Hush! And his sages and physicians wise In earnest council sit, and this advice: He knows not of his plight, to keep him so, As he suspect not that he ought to know: For so the mind be straight and just towards, Wait on the judgment, right read, law regards No mere distortion of the outward frame As blemish, borrowing from the kingly name: And, know he all, the baleful fact you tell, An inward wrench might warp the mind as well. Behoves it, therefore, all of idle tongue, Jesters and women, and the witless young, Be from his presence kept; and when at morn He takes his bath, behoves his bondmaid, Dom, muddy the water, lest perchance he trace Lost kingship's token on his imaged face. 3 years they kept him so, till on a day Dom with his face bath ewer had made delay, And fretted Fergus, petulant and rash, A blow bestowed her of his horsewhip lash. Forth burst the woman's anger: "Thou a king! Thou sit in council! Thou adjudge a thing In court of law! Thou who no kingship can, Since all may see thou art a blemish'd man! Thou wry mouth!" Fergus thereon slew the maid, And, to Loch Ruary's brink in haste conveyed, Went in at Fertay for a day and night. Beneath the waves he rested out of sight. But all the Ultonians, on the bank who stood, Saw the loch boil and redden with the blood. When next at sunrise skies grew also red, He rose, and in his hand the Muirdris' head. Gone was the blemish on his goodly face, Each trait symmetric had resumed its place, And they who saw him marked in all his mien A king's composure ample and serene. He smiled, he cast his trophy to the bank, Cried, "I survivor, Ulla Terrian," and sank. End of The Spear of Keltar. Deirdre Dancing by Herbert Trench. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part I. Nay, O Is, wilt thou not dance, Daughter of Heaven, to day free, at last free? For here no moody raindrop can reach thee, Nor betrayer overpeer, And none the self-delightful measure hear That thy soul moves to. Quit of mortal ear, Full luth she pleads, yet cannot him resist, And on the immossed lights begins to dance. Away, away, far floating like a mist, To fade into some leafy brilliance; Then, smiling to the inward melodist, Over the printless turf, with slow advance Of showery footsteps, makes she infinite That crowded glen; but quick, possessèd by strange rapture, wider than dreams her motions range, Till to a span the forest shrink and change, And in her eyes and glimmering arms she brings Hither all promise, all the unlookèd-for boon Of rainbowed life, all rare and speechless things That shine and swell under the brimming moon. Who shall pluck tympans? For what need of strings To waft her blood who is herself the tune, Herself the warm and breathing melody? Art comes from the land of ever young? Oh, stay! For his heart, after thee rising away, Falls dark, and spirit faint, back to the clay. Griefs, like the yellow leaves by winter curled, Rise after her; long buried pangs arouse. About that bosom the grey forests whirled, And tempests with her beauty might espouse. She rose with the green waters of the world, And the winds heaved with her their depth of boughs. Then vague again as blows the beanfield's odour, On the dark lap of air she chose to sink, As whinnying with plumes to the river bank The pigeons from the cliff came down to drink. Sudden, distraught, shading her eyes, she ceased Listening, like bride whom cunning fairy strain Forth from the trumpet bruited spousal feast Steals. But he beckoned soon, and quick with pain He ran; he craved at those white feet the least Pardon, nor till he felt her hand again Descend, flake soft, durst spy that she was weeping, Or kneel with burning murmurs to atone For sleep she wept. Long fasting had they gone, And ridden from the breaking of the dawn. End of Deirdre dancing. The Noble Lay of Aillinn by Stopford A. Brooke. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part I. After an Irish Tale from the Book of Leanan. Prince Beal of Ulster rode out in the Mon To meet his love at the ford, And he loved her better than lands or life, And dearer than his sword. And she was Aillinn, fair as the sea, The Prince of Leinster's daughter, And she longed for him more than a wounded man Who sees death, longs for water. They sent a message each to each: "Oh, meet me near or far." And the ford divided the kingdoms two, And the kings were bolics at war. And the prince came first to the water's pass, And oh, he thought no ill When he saw with pain a great grey man Come striding o'er the hill. His cloak was the ragged thunder cloud, And his cap the whirling snow, And his eyes were the lightning in the storm, And his horn he 'gan to blow. What news, thou great grey man? I fear 'tis ill with me. Oh, Aillinn is dead, and her lips are cold, And he died for loving thee. And he looked and saw no more the man, But a trail of driving rain. Woe, woe, he cried, and took his sword, And drave his heart in twain. And out of his blood burst forth a spring, And a yew tree out of his breast; And it grew so deep, and it grew so high, The doves came near to rest. But Aillinn was coming to keep her tryst, The hour her lover fell, And she rode as fast as the western wind Across the heathery hill. Behind her flew her loosened hair, Her happy heart did beat, When she was 'ware of a cloud of storm Came driving down the street. And out of it stepped a great grey man, And his cap was peaked with snow, The fire of death was in his eyes, And he 'gan his horn to blow. What news, thou great grey man? And is it ill to me? Oh, Beal the prince is dead at the ford, And he died for loving thee. Pale, pale she grew, and two large tears Dropped down like heavy rain, And she fell to earth with a woeful cry, For she broke her heart in twain. And out of her tears two fountains rose, That watered all the ground, And out of her heart an apple tree grew, That heard the water's sound. Oh, woe were the kings, and woe were the queens, And woe were the people all, And the poets sang their love and their death, In cottage and in hall. And the men of Ulster a tablet made From the wood of Bailey's tree, And the men of Leinster did the like Of Aillinn's apple tree. And on the one the poets wrote The lover tales of Leinster, And on the other all the deeds that lover wrought in Ulster. Now when 100 years had gone, The king of all the land kept feast at Tara, And he bade his poets sing a strand. They sang the sweet unhappy tale, The noble Aillinn's lay. "Go bring the tablets," cried the king, "For I have wept to day." But when he held in his right hand The wood of Bailey's tree, and in his left the tablet smooth from Aillinn's apple tree. The lovers in the wood who kept love longing ever true, knew one another, and at once from the hands of the king they flew. As ivy to the oak they clung, their kiss no man could sever. Oh joy for lovers parted long, to meet at last for ever! End of the Noble Lay of Aillinn. The Love Talker by Ethna Carbery. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 1. I met the Love Talker one eve in the glen. He was handsomer than any of our handsome young men. His eyes were blacker than the sloe, his voice sweeter far than the crooning of old Kevin's pipes beyond in Cool Nagar. I was bound for the milking with a heart fair and free. My grief that bitter hour drained the life from me. I thought him human lover, though his lips on mine were cold, and the breath of death blew keen on me within his hold. I know not what way he came, no shadow fell behind, but all the sighing rushes swayed beneath a fairy wind. The thrush ceased its singing, a mist crept about, we two clung together, with the world shut out. Beyond the ghostly mist I could hear my cattle low, the little cow from Leanan, clean as driven slow, the dun cow from Kerry, the roan from Inisheer. Oh pitiful their calling, and his whispers in my ear! His eyes were a fire, his words were a snare. I cried my mother's name, but no help was there. I made the blessed sign, then he gave a dreary moan. A wisp of cloud went floating by, and I stood alone. Running ever through my head is an old time rune: who meets the love talker must weave her shroud soon. My mother's face is furrowed with the salt tears that fall, but the kind eyes of my father are the saddest sight of all. I have spun the fleecy lint, and now my wheel is still. The linen length is woven for my shroud fine and chill. I shall stretch me on the bed where a happy maid I lay, pray for the soul of Mayor Og at dawning of the day. End of the Love Talker. To the Leanan she, by Thomas Boyd. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part 1. Where is thy lovely perilous abode? In what strange phantom land Glimmer the fairy turrets whereto rode the ill-starred poet band? Say, in the Isle of Youth hast thou thy home, the sweetest singer there, stealing on winged steed across the foam, athrough the moonlit air? And by the gloomy peaks of Errigal, haunted by storm and cloud, wing past to thy lover there, let fall his singing robe and shroud? Or where the mists of bluebell float beneath the red stems of the pine, and sunbeams strike through shadow, dost thou breathe the word that makes him thine? Or is thy palace entered through some cliff when radiant tides are full, and around thy lover's wandering, starlit skiff coil in luxurious lull? And would he, entering on the brimming flood, see caverns vast in height, and diamond columns, crowned with leaf and bud, glow in long lanes of light? And there the pearl of that great glittering shell, trembling, behold thee lone, now weaving in slow dance an awful spell, now still upon thy throne? Thy beauty! Ah, the eyes that pierce him through, then melt as in a dream! The voice that sings the mysteries of the blue, and all that be and seem! Thy lovely motions answering to the rhyme that ancient Nature sings, that keeps the stars in cadence for all time, and echoes through all things. Whether he sees thee thus, or in his dreams, thy light makes all lights dim. An aching solitude from henceforth seems the world of men to him. Thy luring song, above the sensuous roar, he follows with delight. shutting behind him life's last gloomy door, and fares into the night. To the Leanan she. THE KING'S SON. By Thomas Boyd. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part I. Who rideth through the driving rain at such a headlong speed? Naked and pale he rides amain upon a naked steed. Nor hollow nor height his going bars, his wet steed shines like silk, his head is golden to the stars, and his limbs are white as milk. But lo! he dwindles as the light that lifts from a black mere, and, as the fair youth wanes from sight, the steed grows mightier. What wizard by yon holy tree mutters unto the sky, Where Macha's flame-tongued horses flee on hoofs of thunder by? Ah, 'tis not holy so to ban the youth of kingly seed! Ah, woe the wasting of a man who changes to a steed! Nightly upon the plain of kings, when Macha's day is nigh, He gallops, and the dark wind brings his lonely human cry. The King's Son. LITTLE SISTER. By Thomas Boyd. From the Book of Irish Poetry, Part I. Little sister, whom the Fae hides away within his doon, Deep below yon tufted fern, oh, list and learn my magic tune! Long ago, when snared like thee by the Sidhe, my harp and I o'er them wove the slumber spell, Warbling well its lullaby, till with dreamy smiles they sank rank on rank before the strain. Then I rose from out the wrath, and found my path to earth again. Little sister, to my woe, hid below among the Sidhe, List and learn my magic tune, that it full soon may succour thee. Little Sister.